Recently, the district has faced a challenge of several fights at Southfield High School for the Arts and Technology. It is a real challenge. It is a challenge that we do not take lightly at all. And like every parent in the district and every grandparent in the district, I am concerned because I have 2 grandsons that go to school there. And there are 2 things that we want from every day with every child that goes to Southfield A&T. First is they come home a little smarter and that they're always safe. That they come home a little smarter and that they're always safe. And schools and communities are inextricably linked. We are hand in glove. And sometimes we forget that. We forget that there are things that we cannot guard against in schools because we are beset by a culture of violence and a culture of confrontation. Just look at reality TV. Look at the things that are out there that our kids are ever present dealing with. They're dealing with it every day. And so without adult guidance, without us intervening in the lives of kids, our kids are sort of left to their own devices to deal with that stuff. So we actually have to have a proactive process within which we deal with this. So let's be clear. First, fights have been perennially occurring in our schools, period. Just look and just Google social media. You will see YouTube fights. The challenge, however, is that if it bleeds, it leads. So our kids, with cell phones being ubiquitous, will take a cell phone picture of something without knowing the ramifications therefrom. They will take a cell phone, they'll just whip it out and they'll start taking it, and they'll want to post it first, so they'll get all the likes, and I did it first. But they're neglecting 3 really important factors in this process. First one is, there are 1,700 students plus at Southfield A&T. And if 2, 5, or even 10 of those young people fight, still 1,690 of them have done what is appropriate. They've done what is right. And we tend to focus upon the negative as opposed to the positive. But 1,690 youngsters did what they were supposed to do, how they were supposed to do it, and when they were supposed to do it. So that gets overshadowed when people sensationalize that stuff. The second thing that gets overshadowed is the following. Our students don't realize that every one of the things that they post leaves a digital footprint. Everything that they post. And they think that their aliases will do away with it, but all of those aliases are connected to a cell phone or an email. And a super sleuth, whether they be an employer or a college that's looking for admission, will be able to find that, and that will negatively impact their individual future. The third thing that they fail to realize is the following, and this is crazy, but talking to college admissions officers, they look and monitor our social media to see the climate and culture of our schools. They look to see what's happening in each building and what kids are posting. That's why Anika Corbett does her best to put the best light possible for Southfield Public Schools onto the website, because that's being monitored. The crazy thing is, my grandfather used to say, you cut off your nose in spite of your face when you do things that you don't think about, when you do things that actually have adverse consequences for yourselves and others. So what are we doing about the fights that occur? Because that's the consequence of that stuff. What are we doing about the root cause? Well, just be clear, we investigate every incident and we apply the student code of conduct. And several youngsters have actually come to me for more than 10-day suspensions, which is what the principals are allowed to give. And those students have not returned to the building because they've been that egregious. Period, point blank. But we cannot simply punish kids, because if we punish kids, we're actually relegating them to the prison pipeline. And I don't do that for my children. I do not do that for the 6,000 kids. Our obligation as a district is to discipline kids, which means to teach them and correct their behavior. That is what our primary obligation is, because all the youngsters that came before me really don't understand the consequences of their behaviors. That's why we have a juvenile court system. So we actually have to come together to actually teach and correct our young people in a way that will allow them to become productive citizens, as opposed to simply punish and banish, because that's the first thing that communities want to do to our children anyway, particularly those who are black boys. So let's be clear that that is not going to be the first focus that I have. The first focus I have will be to teach and to correct as the interim superintendent. So I met with my parent advisory group yesterday. And man, we had a really, really good conversation. That's a group of parents, K to 12, from all of our schools can be represented, but there were about 10 or so people in the room. So we co-crafted this following plan that we're going to actually put into place this year immediately for our students. First thing is, on February the 28th, that half day of school, we're convening all the student leaders in the building in B Commons to talk about this. That means if you are the leader of the dance team, the band, you're the leader of a football team, a basketball team, baseball team, you will be invited for a breakfast or a brunch to talk about the issues that are happening in the building. What's going on? Why is it occurring? And why are your voices not being the ones that are amplified? Why are your voices not being the ones that are amplified within the school body, student body? Because that's the important part. It's the first step. The second step is we're actually inviting our parents from across the district to join us on the afternoon of March the 16th at Southfield A&T. We want to co-construct classroom discussions led by the student leaders, the seminar teacher, and individual parents to actually have this conversation with our kids in a real meaningful way, not to yell at them, not to scream at them, not to shout, but to hear and to understand why they're making the choices that they're making and to guide them and direct them as we should, because guess what? That is our obligation. They're kids. The one thing that I have yet to forget is the young people who actually I am blessed with serving are children who need guidance, even if they sometimes engage in adult behaviors. So please put those two dates in your memory, because those are just the first two conversations. And then I'm working with a couple of parents to actually have community conversations in forum on Saturday, April the 14th. There will be a community forum at the high school, and on Saturday, May the 19th, there will be a community forum at the high school. We will actually talk about the issues of what do we want to see in our comprehensive high school and the behaviors and the attitudes and the support that our teachers and our children need. That is primary in this conversation. That is primary in this conversation. My granddad used to say something, boy, it don't cost you nothing to be kind, but it'll get you everything. Our kids haven't learned that. Our kids are used to seeing confrontation on social media. They're used to seeing all these things that are negative influences. I'm actually asking you to sign up at the Southfield Compact on the website for this event on March the 16th so that you can be a part of our conversation that supports our kids and our teachers to making the right decisions going forward, because that is our obligation.